Today on Episode 1 of the Room701 podcast, we talk to Mr. Dominic Chavarria about his time as a teacher at THS. This is it.
This is it.
Episode number 1.
Number 1, baby.
Episode number 1, person number 1.
Oh, shoot.
I know.
Thank you.
You're like, almost went over. No wonder my TAs like, I'll be teaching and all of a sudden my TAs are like, woo! You know, it's like, what's going on back there? We should swap chairs or something. This thing's tripping me out.
This sounds
I feel like I'm up a little too high too. There you go.
Here, I'll come down.
Okay. Oh, no. Are we at eye level now?
I think we're at eye level.
I think that will work.
Cool.
All right, you have the Vader chair.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyway, this is the first time we've done anything like this. So
Number 1.
This is number 1. This is the Room 701 podcast. The whole entire point of these podcasts is to get a better idea of the culture of Tehachapi High School and what it means basically to be a warrior.
Yeah.
And we're going to have different guests on, you know, teachers, staff, students, class, presidents, clubs. That's the idea. I want to get as many people on this sucker as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be really cool just to have a conversation and see what's going on. You know, see what it is.
Let's get started.
All right. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Dominic Chavarria, Tehachapi alumni, 2009. So grew up here in Tehachapi, and this is going to be my 9th year.
Ninth year teaching.
Yeah, teaching
yeah.
in general.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
What do you love about it? Like, I guess we're kind of jumping into some of the questions a little bit early, but yeah, what, like your top 3 things that you never thought of before you became a teacher, you know, like what got you into this?
What got me into this? Well, if you want to go back like 20 years ago, it would have been Mr. Wiggins, my English teacher. My reasons changed over the years once I got to figure out what teaching actually is. It's a little different than seeing it,
right?
And actually doing teaching. What I love about it, as cliche as it sounds, I love working with the students. There's always something new every day, and I love that. Yeah. That we get to be a part of students' lives, get to be a big part of their lives since we're in high school. We're working with high schoolers before they go out into the big world. So those are my 2 big things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So surprises now that you are a teacher, because you're saying like there's, you know, you kind of have the idea of what teaching is. Like, oh, I want to be a teacher, because I know that you and I share some students who they want to be teachers.
Yeah.
One wants to be an English teacher, and the other one wants to teach history, right? Which is what you and I both teach. So it's like, okay, that's cool, but now that you're in it, how is that different than the outside perspective of it?
You got to have a lot of patience. You got to be, I don't want to say so critical of yourself, but you have to be reflective. You have to take a look at what you did in the day and how can you make it better. And that's not always easy, to take a look at yourself.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, that self-reflective piece is really important.
Yeah. And
I think it's something that not all of us do, but I think it's something that all of us, you know, should do.
Yeah.
You know, looking in the mirror, when we look in the mirror all the time, but when we go back and we look at our teaching practices and, hey, this was awesome, let's do more of this as opposed to this sucked. Why don't we, as teachers, why are we so reluctant, I feel like, to kind of be self-critical with that?
And always like knowing your audience changes from day to day. You may have the same students every day of the year, but based on what's going on around school or just that certain time of year, how do you match that? How do you match where they are, but also get them to meet the goals you want them to meet?
So what time of year in your experience has been the hardest, like the most difficult time to teach? And I guess the grade level would matter too. Because seniors, you know, toward the end of the year, they're kind of like,
That could be every day of the year.
juices. Yeah, it's like I don't need this class, whatever, But what's your experience with that?
It's usually near the end of every semester, where I notice the students are the most blue per se, or coming back from winter break. That's when they're the toughest to work with.
Yeah. It's like those 2 weeks really impact them. How about you as a teacher? Like, what seasons are hardest for you?
I would say around the same time, because that's where, I'm trying to push my students, and sometimes I need to recalibrate and try to match where they are, and maybe recalibrate what we're doing in a way that it's a little more engaging.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, it's amazing how much you feed off of your students, and when stuff isn't going well in class, it kind of impacts you and your ability to do your job as well. It's just pretty interesting. Take a look at that. So to kind of catch you all up on how this works is, when people come and decide to be on the podcast, I send them a Google form. And that Google form has, I think, right around 36 questions.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there was. Sorry, man. There are quite a few questions on there. And they're broken down into different segments. So there's 4 different segments, and then each segment has different set of questions. And then basically what the point of this is I ask, my guests, like, what do you want to talk about? And for you, what you wanted to go on was the, I think it was section 2. It was segment 2. So you want to be a teacher, which is perfect because that's kind of what we've been talking about anyway. And then, to be honest with you, these questions that you kind of, circled here, the first one is, how has being a teacher impacted you on a personal level? Because we really haven't talked about that. We've talked about it more a little bit professionally, but how has being a teacher impacted you on a personal level, like when you go home at the end of the day?
In a lot of ways. I think for me, most of my growing up, what kind of separates my 20s from my 30s is being a teacher. You're kind of like a parent figure. So you're kind of like a parent figure. Yeah. So for me personally, that's kind of how I've kind of grown up a little bit and matured out of my 20s. For me, it's really hard not to take work home. I don't take any paperwork home, but just the mental part. I will look back and think about all the things, not necessarily things that went right, but all the mistakes.
Yeah.
And then all I can think about sometimes is, how can I fix that?
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you think about those things, do you apply them pretty quickly to your teaching? Yeah. Or do you kind of let them simmer a little bit? Or
I'll write them down on a sticky note, and that's the first thing I'm working on that next day. I'll put it on my desk, and that's the first thing I'm working on the next day.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I like that. That's a good philosophy. I like that. I should do that. I'd have sticky notes freaking everywhere. You're like the dude in Memento, right? Trying to figure out what's going on. All right. The other question is, do you think you've influenced others to become a teacher?
I think I have, because this week I got an email from a former student. He wants to be a teacher. And I have a few current students that are graduating that want to be teachers too.
Right on.
So yeah.
Like in English or English. Just, okay. Because I have a few who want to be a teacher, but they want to teach, like kindergarten or science or English or something like that. So.
Come to think of it, I have a student from, maybe 6 years ago, and she's teaching elementary down in Bakersfield.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So I've heard, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but that there is a person in our district who is a student of mine, many moons ago, who is thinking about becoming admin.
Really?
So yeah, they work in the district. They either have or they are almost getting their admin. And if anything ever opens up here, I could have a former student be my boss.
Where does time go?
I know, isn't that wild?
Where does time go?
I mean, it's so cool. It's very cool, but you know, at the same time, it's kind of like, wow, it's eye-opening. You know, because I mean, you and I, we see them for a certain amount of time, and then they go off and they do their thing. And for a lot of them, their thing doesn't involve coming back here necessarily.
Yeah, we don't always get to see the end product of, you know, the years or the time that we put in with students.
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear back.
It is.
No matter what they're doing.
Yeah, it is. It is always fun to like run into them in the grocery store. Or they're there with their kids and you're like, what? You know, you have children now?
That's happened. One student, he's got 2 kids. He's going to go work at the prison. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Where's time? Where's time go?
That's amazing. It's crazy that way. All right. So if you could go back in time and tell your past self one thing about the teaching profession, what would it be? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. We went all philosophical. I would say, don't try to be like your heroes.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's a little morbid.
That's kind of like never meet your hero, right? Like that old saying, you never want to meet your hero.
No, I mean, you want to maybe be like people that have influenced you. So maybe that came out wrong, but just you want to cut your own path.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. And sometimes your path is going to be very different from somebody who influenced you, and that's okay. My first year teaching, I tried to be like all the other people that I thought were teachers. And then this is kind of weird because I became like coworkers with them, and we had really different ideologies and how to treat students and how to assign work. What does engagement look like?
Yeah.
So I think just take little things, and you're always learning, but take little things from different people, but become your own person, whatever that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. The other segment that we want to jump into is philosophy and finding what I call the way. And the way, I guess it's kind of Star Wars-y to a certain extent. Yes, this is the way, right? Okay, my young Padawan. All right. But I've always thought teaching is, to me, is kind of like medicine or law, right? You have lawyers and you have doctors who practice. They practice their craft. They practice medicine. They practice law. But we teach. I don't teach anything. I like to practice trying to help others figure out what's going on in the world. Yeah, and that's kind of the way, that's kind of the philosophy of what I mean by the way. Like walking by the way is, how do you influence others to want to be curious about their own learning, right? Mm-hmm. And so the question that I asked you here is, what is your teaching philosophy and how do you incorporate it into your daily lessons?
Like the textbook term, they call it like student-centered. So if you want to be like technical, that's what it is.
You want the stakeholders involved, right?
Not to be like cyclical, but just getting students to ask questions, like creating lessons for them to be curious about the world. And I think just framing things, showing them things that they've never seen at certain angles before. Like we do like a lifeboat challenge, for example, when we do like the value of life unit. And then what I do is I assign them different roles in the lifeboat challenge. Like one of them will be a Black Lives Matter protester. One of them will be a January 6er. And then now the students have to test their biases, and they have to beware of logical fallacies. So getting them to problem solve using your theory, using your classroom practices. That's just one example.
That's really cool. So out of all the lessons that you've done, and I know you've done a lot, and I really admire you for that, because you're willing to jump, right?
Yeah.
Like so many of us, including myself, I like to play it safe. Maybe kind of put the toes out, dip it into the water a little bit. You're the dude who comes just like, you're Will Ferrell, right? Like coming in and like, cannonball! All right? I mean, and and you've always been like that, man, since you've been here, since you've been teaching. I mean, the first time you walked in here and you're like, hey, I have this question, it was always a question about like, how can I, and it's not necessarily pushing the envelope. Yeah. It's pushing the students to learn something and to be better, right? Yeah. Like how am I going to get my students to do that? And I love that. So with that idea in mind, like what do you feel have been some of your best lessons, and maybe some of your ones where you're kind of like, that one should have simmered a little bit more before I pulled that one out?
Yeah. The one I described to you is one of my favorite ones to teach.
The lifeboat one?
The lifeboat one. There's another one that we do with like juvenile justice. I will show them crime cases, and I will hide the ages of the assailants, and then I'll reveal them afterwards. And it's always interesting. The class is always divided. They'll say, well, they're kids. And some will say, no, we're going to keep the law. We're going to be heavy-handed with the law. So
right.
The discussion, like I would love to be a fly in the wall listening to that discussion. I am the fly in the wall.
That's super cool.
A lesson I didn't like. So we just got back from lockdown, and our students were really behind in learning. So I had to like think of a book that would kind of match where they were at. And I way underestimated or overestimated. They didn't like the book. Mm-hmm. The book was not challenging enough. It was just too like straightforward. So I was in this weird situation where I kind of canceled the reading, but focused on other like articles and things. Not my finest hour, but that's what happens when you're out of teaching for 2 years.
Right. And I mean, it happens to all of us, right? Mm-hmm. Like some lessons are awesome for one period, and then you bring that lesson to the next period, and you just don't get that same, like feel, I guess. Yeah. No, for lack of a better term.
But that's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, is like reading the room and reevaluating, recalibrating, just knowing your audience.
Right. Mm-hmm. Nice. I love it.
What else you got for me?
I don't know. Do you want me to pick some random ones? Yeah. Ooh, I like this one here. All right. Actually, I got two. Do you want me to hit you with the lighter question or the more serious question?
Okay, let's go lighter first, and then we'll talk about butter sausages.
What are you doing? I don't know. All right. Do you incorporate humor into your lessons? And what's the funniest thing that's ever happened in your classroom?
I have too much ADHD to not like have humor.
Yeah.
So I have a reputation for diving across students' desks to throw something or like get their phone.
Nice.
Yeah, and it always scares them. And yeah.
Have you ever fallen off a desk like you just like you seal it right over, and just kind of go over the thing, or?
No, but so I have like we throw a ball around. It's kind of like our conch.
Okay.
And we're doing a Socratic seminar, and it's all serious. And the quarterback at the time is in my classroom. I swear he did it on purpose. It's
always the quarterback.
But he threw, I asked for the conch, and he threw it, and it hit the C. I have like this wooden C that is hanging up.
Okay.
And he hits it, knocks it down, and then it hits me in the head. And I have a glass bottle, and I drop it, but somehow it doesn't break.
Okay.
Yeah. And then another time I was just sitting in my chair, and then my scarf got caught underneath the roller. It was winter, and I went to pick it up, and then I just yeeted. And then my scarf went flying up in the air and flew on top of my head.
Nice.
And I'm just looking over my desk like, whoa.
What happened? Did it happen like when students were in the classroom?
It was lunchtime, and they were like, what is wrong with you?
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a more serious one. All right. And you could take this however you want to answer it. How do you address controversial subjects or sensitive topics in the classroom? And what strategies do you use to facilitate respectful and productive discussions?
I'm no stranger to like small town news or Facebook around here, but I try to be careful. Some of the greatest advice I was given by like my mentor was the students have to carry the weight.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is like, when in doubt, let the students carry the weight.
Okay.
Like if we're doing like a series of essay topics, I'll always have like other, so a student can volunteer to cover that. I will not really, unless it's just not appropriate, but usually I'll give students voice and let them, write on something.
Right.
My fallback is always, well, I'm not teaching it, but I am responsible for allowing students to have a voice.
Okay.
It's not me standing in front of the class saying, this is what I believe.
Right.
But I am allowing them to explore their beliefs and explore the world that they're in.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Do you set goals? Like with like I guess that is kind of a goal, right? Is you're trying to make the education more student centric than teacher centric. So that would be a goal you set, and then you kind of scaffold, for lack of a better term, around that goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we'll do like a anticipation discussion at the start of the unit. So I'm always listening to what students are saying, and I'm writing notes, because then I'm going to go find articles about those things. There's things I didn't even think of. I just have like an overview goal. But if somebody mentions, I don't know, I can't think of an example, but I'll find an article for it, and then I'll incorporate it into the learning. And that kind of helps all of our readings stay current.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool. Because like teaching government and economics, it's pretty easy to find like up to date and current stuff, just because it's like, especially this upcoming year with it being an election cycle.
Yeah.
It's going to be easy to do that kind of stuff. But then you have, a year out from the presidency, 2 years out, when you have the midterms, it becomes a little bit drier. Yeah. And so you do have to dig a little bit more. And I've never thought of that, just like listening to what the students have to say. What is that? The Zygest, right?
Yeah. What I do is so I give them credit for their comments. So I have a spreadsheet.
Okay.
But then it's just from the grade book, so you have like this gap at the bottom. So I'm just writing information like, hey, this is a really cool idea. Then we need to, cover this topic that goes with this overarching theme or unit.
Cool. I love it, man. You and I need to do more like that, because of how you teach your class would totally. And we've done it before in the past, right? We've done the 4 square thing up in the cafeteria with the value of life, right? But there's so many other things that, because I know Morrison and I do a budget thing together. There's so many paths that we could take.
It'd be cool to do something like that, maybe like with smaller groups.
Yeah, because like I was telling you earlier, I'm doing training to do more project-based learning with government. And with that, I want to start working with other departments a lot more than I've done in the past, and actually do it. Because every year you and I are like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. And you get caught up in it. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't have the time to do this. I barely have the time to get through what we need to get through.
When you're trying to set up for like a group project or project-based learning, just ask yourself this, is like, what is the problem that my students need to be able to solve using the skills that we learn in here?
Mm-hmm.
What is the problem? And how can I incorporate like people problem solving too? Is people of different calibers, different mindsets working together?
Nice. All right. You want to talk about culture at THS a little bit?
Yeah.
I know I've been talking about like teaching and that kind of stuff, but you've been here long enough.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen and you're a former student.
Yeah.
So how have you seen the culture of THS, meaning kind of like what it means to be a warrior, change from when you were a student to your early career to where you are now, like the post-COVID world that we all live in?
I think technology is a big one. It's just a big part of the culture. I think just looking over the span of like 20 years, I mean, we didn't have these, so we weren't always on them. People talked a lot more. Students talked a lot more, and I think duked it out a little more verbally. We're able to talk things out more. And it's just something that we kind of have to work on school culture wise, is getting back to that. Technology is not going anywhere. I mean, we could go on a whole rabbit hole of like, should we ban cell phones or not?
Yeah, that's a whole nother 45-minute discussion.
But I just think like what we're doing right now though is like we're using technology as a tool, but we're having a human conversation here.
Right.
I hate to, I don't want to sound like a boomer or anything, like back in my day.
But back in my day.
I noticed a lot more students when I was in school participating in school activities and being willing to put themselves out there, take chances.
Yeah.
With these cell phones and being able to see yourself online and what you look like and what other people are going to say, you can't help but be more conscious of how you're going to be interpreted and what people are going to say about you.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I graduated high school in '96 and no cell phones. I mean, some kids had like pagers or beepers or whatever you want to call them. We barely had the internet. So like you said, the school culture was like really vibrant. Yeah. There was a lot going on. I mean, I think it's an American thing, but no matter where you go, Friday nights are football nights, right? That's just kind of the way it is. Now, some schools, that is the extent of their culture, where other schools, that's kind of just another piece in the fixture of what makes up their culture. And, I don't know, I kind of feel like TACHP rallies around football, but we don't rally around other things. I mean, you played football in high school, so you have a really good perspective on that. I mean,
no, it is exactly the way you're describing it. It's like all of fall leading into winter. It's very hyper focused on that, but then in the spring, it's kind of like a void. Yeah. And there's other things going on too. But school culture wise, you don't see a lot of rallies for the soccer team. Right. But they're just as important, and you know what I mean? Or baseball. Yeah, or girls softball. They went CIF this year. That's big. And so did our baseball team. And they're blurred. It's just kind of like it doesn't move the needle as much. So as a teacher then, what do you feel is your responsibility to create that culture, to create our culture here then, and to build it up? It's tough, man. Because as a teacher, you're doing a million things in a single day. On my end, I try to get the students to get to know each other as people. What they do with that outside of the classroom, I can only hope that they contribute that to something bigger. Right. I don't always think that happens. I don't always think they see the connection between what we're doing here is, a micro level to this bigger issue.
Right.
But that's the life of a teacher. You're always thinking of ways to problem solve.
Yeah.
This is like my second home, so the fight just continues. When one day, you don't know, maybe it'll click.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you feel it's been since COVID? Do you think we're starting to get back to a better school culture? Are you seeing more like warrior pride on a daily basis as opposed to just Fridays, hey, everybody wear green kind of thing?
Yeah, I think gosh, I hate thinking about lockdown.
It's one of those things you just, as a teacher, I couldn't imagine as a student, but as a teacher, you just, that 2 years is just, it's kind of gone.
Yeah.
I
remember doing my job. I just
don't
remember teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of going back to what you were saying is just, do I know school culture getting better? Yeah, I do. But I would love to see students talk more. Like my lesson ends early. I let the kids just kind of, as long as they're seated.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell the admin that.
No. Sorry, Mrs. Liberty.
I think to myself, what am I going to do with the next 20 minutes? I'm kidding.
I play bingo, man. We play butts up, 7-up.
But this year, it's been scary, like quiet. The kids are on their phones, and I'm like, for the love of God, just be loud.
Yes.
Like, get me angry, like trying to get you guys to settle down. I just want you to talk.
That's amazing, because I same thing. Yeah. Like I'll end class like 5 minutes before the bell, right? You shut down, and same thing. It's like, just they get right on it, and it's so different. The world is so different. I mean, like you're saying, don't want to back in my day kind of thing, but back in my day kind of thing, you'd be talking to each other, you'd be passing notes, you'd be rambunctious, like you were saying. It wouldn't be quiet like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I
know some teachers don't want to hear a pin drop, but I worry about the sake of just human interaction in general.
Mm-hmm.
Is learning how to be people around other people.
Mm-hmm. And be able to have a conversation without having to check the cell phone or look at the cell phone or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. I'm gonna ask you one more.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is we'll do that 60-second scramble thing. We'll see how that goes with you.
Is butter sausage a prompt?
All right, yeah. It might be. Who knows? All right. So kind of this, I guess I should have asked this a little bit earlier, but I am very curious with you because I think you do all of these things. And in my mind, I want to know which one do you like the most.
Okay.
All right. And the question is what are some of the most effective ways you've found to incorporate project-based instruction, direct instruction, in student-led, either instruction or learning? Because in TUSD right now, there's a big push to go to direct instruction, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what all of our training this year has been on, and everything is EDI. Is that implicit direct instruction, right? Or explicit direct instruction?
Some acronym.
Yeah, wow, you didn't hear. We'll edit that out. But but what are your thoughts on that? And like I said, I should have asked you this question earlier, and I'm kind of chasing a tail right now, but I am curious.
Honestly, man, when I get my day going, I don't say I'm going to do project-based learning today. It's just like, I see the green light and this is what we need to do to get my students there. And sometimes that's like me giving explicit instruction to them. Sometimes that's them problem solving and working together.
Right.
Sometimes I'm doing all three of those things in a single day. I go back to what my teacher said to me is the students have to carry the weight.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the variety of ways the students can carry the weight and be better people from having participated in your class. I don't know if that like answers the question, but on a given day in my class, it'll be loud.
Yeah.
And there's going to be talking, there's going to be group stuff, or there'll be individual stuff. There's going to be a problem to solve. And I think that's just in life in general, is trying to create and model in your classroom the problems that they're going to face out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it answers the question. I mean, basically it's, you have a toolbox
Mm-hmm.
and you use all the different tools.
Yeah.
And it depends. And there isn't one that's necessarily the best. There's one that's maybe better for that given topic or situation or class or student.
Yeah.
Topic, whatever it happens to be. Sweet. Love it.
Love it.
All right. You have to set a clock because I don't have a cell phone right now.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to fold these up so you can't see them. So now the point of this is it's called a 60-second scramble. And the point is during 60 seconds, I'm going to ask as many questions as I can. And Dominic, you're going to answer them just like as fast as you possibly can. Okay. So
right.
No explanation. You just got to answer it. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So tell me when you're ready to go.
I'm ready. Go.
Favorite color?
Green.
Favorite subject in high school?
English.
Favorite movie?
Fargo.
I say peanut butter, you say?
Jelly.
Favorite music?
Metal.
Favorite band?
Creed.
Favorite video game?
Bounty Hunter.
Tomato or tomato?
Tomato.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
If you win $1 million, what would you do right now?
Start a doctoral program. I don't know.
Ever been starstruck?
Yes.
By who?
My wife.
Favorite celebrity?
Leo DiCaprio.
Favorite food?
Yogurt.
Favorite sports team?
Angels.
Oh, okay. In-N-Out or Chick-fil-A?
In-N-Out.
Favorite holiday?
Halloween.
Beach, mountain, or desert?
All of them. Go to Washington.
Truck or car?
Car.
Is that it? Oh, okay. All right. Right on. All right. Got some others on there. I'll have to ask you again. We'll have to do like a follow-up, anyway. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed this as well. And our next episode number 2, is going to be Mrs. Libatique, so our principal. So it should be kind of fun to see how that one goes.
No, you better edit that out.
No joke, right? Hey, thanks, man. That was awesome.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what it looks like.